What if I told you that a single piece of paper caused 3 rulers to meet mysterious ends, started to conflicts, and made one woman incredibly wealthy? And what if I told you that this paper was lost for 600 years inside a deceased person's boot? This is the story of the Secret Map of Castile, one of the most dangerous documents in medieval history. 1523. King Charles I of Spain is on his deathbed, and he's deeply troubled. Not about death itself, but about what might happen after he's gone. Charles harbors a secret that could destroy his entire dynasty, and he's hidden evidence of it in the one place no one would ever think to look. Charles wasn't the legitimate king of Spain. His grandfather, Ferdinand, had eliminated the rightful heir, a young prince named Diego, and concealed his remains in an unmarked location. But before Diego perished, he had created something that proved his claim to the throne: a map. Not just any map, but a treasure map showing the location of Aztec gold that belonged to the Spanish crown by ancient right. The map also contained a written account, scribed in Diego's own hand. It detailed Ferdinand's actions and proved that Charles's entire family were illegitimate rulers. If anyone ever discovered this map, they wouldn't just become incredibly wealthy. They would have legal grounds to challenge the Spanish monarchy. Charles knew the map existed because his grandfather had revealed everything on his deathbed. Ferdinand had attempted to destroy it, but Diego had been too clever. He had hidden it somewhere Ferdinand would never find it. And now Ferdinand was gone, taking the secret with him. For 3 years, Charles had searched everywhere. Every castle, every monastery, every hidden vault in Spain. Nothing. The map had vanished as completely as if it had never existed. But Charles knew it was somewhere, waiting to bring about his downfall. As Charles lay dying, he made a decision that would echo through history. He summoned his most trusted agent, a man known only as the Crow, and gave him a final mission: find the secret map of Castile and destroy it, no matter how long it takes, no matter what the cost. The Crow accepted the mission, but he had his own plans. Why destroy the most valuable document in Europe when you could use it to become the most powerful person in Europe? The Crow spent 2 decades searching. He eliminated 17 people who claimed to know something about the map. He interrogated monks, bribed scholars, and ransacked libraries across Spain. But the map remained hidden. Then, in 1545, the Crow received information that changed everything. A dying priest in Toledo whispered a secret. Prince Diego hadn't hidden the map in a building or a vault. He had hidden it on a person, someone he trusted completely, someone who would take the secret to their final resting place, Diego's bodyguard. A giant of a man named Rodrigo the Silent. The crow raced to Toledo's cathedral, where Rodrigo had been buried 25 years earlier. Under cover of darkness, he broke into the tomb and opened the stone coffin. Inside, he found Rodrigo's perfectly preserved remains, still wearing his leather boot. And inside the left boot, wrapped in treated cloth, was the secret map of Castile. The crow couldn't read, but he understood what he was holding. The map showed the location of a massive Aztec treasure chamber beneath the Cathedral of Mexico City. But more importantly, the account written in Prince Diego's hand proved that the current king, Philip II, was illegitimate. The crow had three choices: destroy the map and complete his mission, use it to claim the treasure and become rich, or use it to threaten the king and become powerful. He chose a fourth option: sell it to the highest bidder. The crow contacted three potential buyers. Queen Mary of England, who wanted to use it to justify action against Spain. King Francis of France, who wanted to discredit his Spanish rivals. And most dangerously, Princess Isabella of Portugal, who actually had a legitimate claim to the Spanish throne and could use the map to justify a challenge to Spanish rule. But the crow made a fatal mistake. He tried to auction the map by showing pieces of it to each potential buyer. What he didn't realize was that all three buyers were secretly working together. Mary, Francis, and Isabella had formed an alliance to diminish Spanish power in Europe. They didn't want to compete against each other for the map. They wanted to use it together to undermine Spain from three different directions. They invited the crow to a secret meeting in a monastery outside Paris. They would all examine the complete map together and decide how to proceed. The crow, thinking he was about to become incredibly wealthy, agreed. He never left that monastery alive. But the three conspirators couldn't agree on how to use the map. Queen Mary wanted to take action against Spain immediately and claim the treasure. King Francis wanted to use the account to discredit Philip internationally. Princess Isabella wanted to launch a challenge from within Spain itself. Their disagreement became so heated that Isabella stormed out of the monastery, taking the map with her. Mary and Francis were furious, but there was nothing they could do. Isabella was already riding hard toward the Spanish border. What happened next depends on which records you believe. The official Spanish documents say that Princess Isabella perished in a hunting accident 3 days after crossing into Spain. Her body was found at the bottom of a cliff, apparently thrown from her horse. But Portuguese records tell a different story. They say Isabella was eliminated by Spanish agents who had been tracking her since she left Paris. They say she was questioned before she perished, and that her pursuers were searching for something she had hidden. The map had vanished again. For 50 years, rumors circulated across Europe. Some said Isabella had hidden the map before she passed away. Others claimed she had destroyed it to prevent it from falling into Spanish hands. A few whispered that she had passed it to Portuguese agents who were waiting to use it against Spain. The truth was far stranger. Isabella hadn't hidden the map or destroyed it. She had memorized it. Every detail, every landmark, every word of Diego's account. She had burned the original document and carried the information in her memory, planning to use it when the time was right. But Isabella never got the chance to use what she knew. She passed away with a secret, and the location of the greatest treasure in history seemed lost forever. Or so everyone thought. 1612. 87 years after Isabella's passing, a Portuguese explorer named Captain Silva was preparing for an expedition to New Spain when he made an incredible discovery in his family's archives. His grandmother had been Princess Isabella's personal servant, and she had left behind a diary. The diary contained something impossible, a complete transcription of the secret Map of Castile. Isabella hadn't just memorized the map, she had dictated every detail to her servant before crossing into Spain. She had wanted to ensure that if something happened to her, the secret wouldn't be lost forever. Captain Silva realized what he was holding. This wasn't just a treasure map, it was a document that could rewrite the history of Europe. But Silva was a practical man. He didn't care about politics or royal bloodlines. He cared about gold. Silva secretly sailed to Mexico and followed the map's directions. Beneath the Cathedral of Mexico City, exactly where the map indicated, he found a chamber containing more gold than the Spanish treasury. But he also found something else. Prince Diego's original account, carved into the stone walls of the chamber. Silva faced the same choice that had confronted everyone who had possessed the map. Use the account to challenge Spanish rule, or keep quiet and enjoy the treasure. Silva chose treasure. He quietly shipped the gold back to Portugal over several years, becoming one of the wealthiest men in Europe. But Silva made the same mistake everyone else had made. He trusted the wrong person. Silva's partner in the treasure expedition was his own brother, Captain Miguel Silva. Miguel had helped transport the gold, but he had also copied Diego's account from the chamber walls. And unlike his brother, Miguel cared very much about politics. Miguel returned to Portugal and secretly contacted the Dutch rebels who were fighting for independence from Spain. He offered them proof that Spanish rule was questionable, documents that could justify their revolution and potentially bring other European powers into the conflict against Spain. The Dutch were interested, very interested. They agreed to meet Miguel in Amsterdam to examine the evidence. But the Spanish had been watching Miguel since his return from Mexico. They knew he had discovered something important, and they weren't about to let him share it with their enemies. Miguel Silva was found deceased in his room at an Amsterdam Inn, apparently the victim of robbers. But nothing was stolen except one thing: a leather portfolio containing documents about Spanish royal succession. The Secret Map of Castile had claimed another life, but it still wasn't finished. The Dutch rebels were furious. They had been promised evidence that could change the course of their struggle, and now their contact was gone and the documents were missing. They demanded that Captain Silva provide the information his brother had promised. Silva was trapped. If he admitted he knew what Miguel had discovered, the Spanish would eliminate him. If he refused to help the Dutch, they would expose his treasure hunting to Spanish authorities. Either way, he was in danger. Silva chose a third option. He hired a notorious Caribbean privateer, a woman known as Red Anna, to target Spanish treasure ships. He would share Miguel's information with her, and she would use it to attack ships carrying gold from the very chamber he had robbed. Red Anna was brilliant. Instead of random piracy, she used Diego's information to predict exactly which ships would be carrying the most valuable cargo. For 3 years, she disrupted Spanish shipping with unprecedented success. The Spanish couldn't understand how she always knew which ships to target and which routes they would take. But Red Anna had bigger ambitions than piracy. She wanted to use Diego's account to establish her own territory in the Caribbean, a place where Spanish rule could be challenged legally. She began gathering other privateers and rebels, promising them that she had proof Spanish claims to the New World were questionable. The Spanish finally realized what was happening. Somehow, information from Prince Diego's lost account was being used against them. They launched the largest manhunt in Caribbean history to capture Red Anna and recover whatever documents she possessed. The manhunt succeeded. Red Anna was captured off the coast of Jamaica in 1617. Under interrogation, she revealed everything: the location of Diego's treasure chamber, Silva's role in robbing it, and the existence of the account carved into the chamber walls. The Spanish immediately sealed the chamber beneath Mexico City Cathedral and silenced everyone who knew about it. They thought they had finally ended the threat of the secret map of Castile. They were wrong. Red Anna had made copies of Miguel's information and hidden them with trusted allies across the Caribbean. For decades after her capture, Spanish officials lived in fear that someone would find these copies and use them to challenge Spanish rule. Some of those copies were eventually recovered. Others disappeared forever. Legend says it's still out there, hidden, somewhere in the Caribbean, waiting for someone to discover it and use it to rewrite the history of the New World. The secret map of Castile had survived for almost a century, passing from hand to hand, causing danger and upheaval wherever it went. It had toppled no kingdoms, but it had terrified the most powerful empire in the world. It had created no new rulers, but it had brought misfortune to everyone who tried to use it. And somewhere in the Caribbean, protected by time and secrecy, it might still be waiting for someone brave enough or foolish enough to seek the truth it contains.